So I think for me, in my life experiences, been through some things in my life, as has everyone, but being able to not dwell on those things anymore and to be able to use them to bring light to somebody else's life is the biggest reward outside of parenting and raising my three girls, the biggest reward I have ever received. This month, I get to help a lady that's lost both her parents and is going through a divorce. And she said, I need this space better for my girls. And we're going in and we're doing it. And that's amazing. That was like my biggest reward job so far. So I'm so excited.
If you are a listener and you are sitting here thinking like, "Hey, I don't know if I could start a business. I don't know if I have what it takes." We want to be able to tell you about people who have made that leap. I did it. I have never looked back. It's the best thing I ever did. And today I am very honored to have my guest, Kim Snodgrass. And Kim is going to tell us all about her journey, but Kim just became a professional organizer like 4 seconds ago, right?
Yeah. Yes. About 4 seconds ago,
Okay.
literally.
So one of the reasons that we wanted to talk to Kim is because some of you may be thinking like, "Oh my gosh, how would I even make that leap?" And Kim is in the middle of making the leap right now. We want to talk to her about all of her journey. So give us a little bit of your background because you've had an awesome life, but you've moved 20 times. You've had all sorts of craziness happen in your life. So give us a little overview.
Absolutely. I have. And with most journeys, condensing them can be difficult, but I will do my best. Yes, I have moved 21 times in my life for various reasons. Childhood, we moved quite a bit. And then for a lump sum of about 17 years, I moved around to some different states due to my family's job. And I found my way back to Oregon about 5 years ago. And here I am, came back to be close to family. And I have found myself in a space of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I am going to be approaching 50 in 18 months. So it was time to shift into gear and get this done. So back in 2001, I was living in Florida and my daughter was in a Girl Scout troop. And this Girl Scout troop leader drove around in a car that had professional organizer written on the window. And it kind of intrigued me. I had a thing with organizing, but I didn't really realize I did. Organizing was a coping mechanism for me. So I would pull everything out of my garage and totally purge it all and then put it all back in. And I would do this to various things in my house, but garages was like, I don't know why. Maybe it was because I lived in Florida and it was nice outside. I don't know, but garages were kind of my thing. Anyway, set up a meeting with this gal and she explained to me that, yeah, I do organizing and I help people get their papers in order and help them get systems like with homework time with their kids and this and that. Well, that was of zero interest to me. Organizing papers is definitely not going to be my niche. So I just kind of blew it off as that what I was enjoying and doing wasn't the same kind of organizing. It was an actual business. So this is in 2001, stay at home mom. I had two girls at the time, ended up having another girl and just stayed home for 17 years and then re-entered the workforce about 5 years ago, not knowing what I was going to do with my life. And back in October, I had some finger surgery, thinking I was going into the doctor for a little in office operation thing. It turned into a full operating room thing. I wasn't able to use my hands and I was had to sit for 3 weeks and not get them wet and not do anything. Gave me a lot of time to think. And through those 3 weeks of sitting and thinking, I came to the discovery that I want to organize. I don't know if it's a thing, but I want to do it. And so I did some digging and realized this is a thing. And there are courses you can take, and there are groups you can join, and there is support. And this all has taken place over the last 2.5 months. And I'm thrilled. I've been doing jobs and love it. And I've had such a great reception, and the people in my community are thrilled and excited. And yeah, I'm just ready to roll. I've learned a lot over the past 2.5 months, but I am excited and ready.
You've had a crash course. It's almost been like you've gotten a master's degree in like 3 weeks kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, at the University of Life, for sure.
Right. Well, and you've said a few things that I think people can probably connect to, especially if they're sitting there going like, "Oh, what do I do? Like, this is scary." First of all, knowing that this has been a passion of yours for a long time and that you can turn a passion into something you can make a living out of. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you is because you are so brand new to organizing, yet you are already seeing success with clients. You've had some experience right out of the gate. So tell us a little bit about, when you made that decision to make that leap.
It was, I wish so much I could remember the podcast I was listening to. Like I said, I couldn't do much with myself during that 3-week period of time, but I started listening to podcasts because I was sitting there going, what am I doing with my life? I had just sent my last kid off to college, just dropped her off at the University of Oregon, like literally on that Friday. And I had surgery that Monday. I'm trying to figure out, what am I doing here? I am literally an empty nest and I don't have a plan. I'm not a big TV watcher, so I started listening to podcasts. So I was fishing through quite a few. Nothing was intriguing. And this gal, young, maybe like 4 episodes in, I thought, well, I'll give her a try. And it was a podcast about finding purpose. Told yourself, ask yourself these 3 questions. And I asked myself these 3 questions. And I came to this like, what do I love? And I just kept coming to this organizing thing in the back of my head, but I couldn't get it out of the back of my head.
Yeah.
Could not get it there. And my family has a group text them all. And I said, I want each of you to text me individually. What am I good at? And they all texted me, you're a great mom. It's like, gee, Merry Christmas. I'm not going to make any money at being a mother.
I don't want to be, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out of that business.
That costs way too much money. There is no ROI on that. Anyway, long story short, they all had another common factor in their answers, and that was resourcefulness. And you're really good at organizing. And then I text my best friend in Florida who used to watch me take my garage apart numerous times. And I said, could you see me as a professional organizer? And her response brought me to tears. She said, you should have been doing this all these years. And so that was kind of how I got to that point of, I'm doing this and I am so excited about it. And I just dove in. I was on my computer nonstop for probably 4 days, looking up all that. I came across Pro Organizer Studio, reached out, got some more information, and I forced myself to think on it for a week or so. But no, I have not had a moment of regretting any of the steps I've taken. I have moments of, where's everybody going to come from? But I'm so excited. And I truly believe, and maybe it's my age and experiences I've been through, I truly believe when you find that thing, you just know it. You absolutely know it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
Well, and I posted about this the other day, but in my own journey to finding organizing as a career, I was trying to figure out, same thing as you, what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I just kept coming back to, this is the only thing that, other than what I had already been doing in my career. And I just kept coming back to like, I want to help other people organize their
Mhm.
houses. And so
Yeah.
I think that you have that same thing. And I think that's just a message for the people who are listening, that if you have that idea, and by the way, you don't have to not have an organizing job. You can already have an organizing service, but say, I can't stop thinking about how I really want to organize people's papers.
Yeah.
You aren't going to do that, but I would.
No, no,
I would.
not. You
Or
can
yeah, or people who are like, I am really passionate about organizing people's photographs, whatever that is. And these may sound like tiny examples, but if there's something about your business that you can't get out of your brain, that's something to think about too.
absolutely. Yes. And I've had some of those thoughts too. And I'm playing around with some of those niches. I live in a rural area, and one of my dreams is to organize shops. It's just like a mansion of a garage. And
Yeah.
and I am going to, ours is under construction. And once it's done, it's my 2022 goal to get that thing dialed in. I'm really excited about that. So yes, there's lots of different niches to go along with organizing. You don't have to do it all. And in fact, when I first started this, Pinterest can be somewhat distracting and a little deceiving. And I thought that all organizing really was nowadays was making some pantries really pretty and some closets look like rainbows. And I was okay with that. I'll do that. But I quickly found out, after reaching out to quite a few organizers throughout the country, private messaging them, asking them some things, that there's a lot more to it than making things look pretty. There is so much more to it. And I think that was my biggest surprise. And the best surprise that came out of all of this because I get to actually be involved in people's lives and work through things with them. And that is so exciting.
But that's another thing that actually some people are. I am very much like you. I love getting into the people aspect and trying to figure out like how to make their lives better. And some people don't love that. And that's one of the things that is so great about organizing is you and I are sitting here, just the two of us, and you don't like paper. I love paper. You're going to organize shops. I probably wouldn't be very good at that. We both love the psychology. Some people don't. The job of organizing can take so many different formats. So,
Yes. Yes.
um, what do you particularly love about working with people and the psychology? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think for me in my life experiences, been through some things in my life as has everyone, but being able to not dwell on those things anymore and to be able to use them to bring light to somebody else's life is the biggest reward outside of parenting and raising my three girls, the biggest reward I have ever received. And I hope I never lose that. I want to continue forward with that because not everybody wants to get a counselor, and not everybody wants to have a psychologist or go to the doctor. Some people just want a human. And this is kind of a different avenue to get that human when you're going through something that's not so fun.
Yeah.
This month, I get to help a lady that's lost both her parents and is going through a divorce. And she said, I need this space better for my girls. And we're going in and we're doing it. And that's amazing. That was like my biggest reward job so far. So I'm so excited.
It
Mhm,
doesn't matter what your life situation is. We have all been through things that can make us empathetic to other people.
mhm.
And just showing up for them, I think, at those difficult parts of their lives, it's truly a gift.
And cheerleading for people, just being a
Yeah.
cheerleader. People really struggle letting things go. I don't. I mean, moving 21 times, how could I hold on to things? So letting things go for me that's like, how is that hard? But for some people, that is like, that's a really big obstacle for them to overcome. And being able to walk somebody through that and then seeing the freedom on their face is great. It's amazing.
So if there are people that are listening that are saying like, "Oh, I don't know that I have the skills to do that." Did you have anything that like is this just something innate that you have or do you feel like you just because of your life experience you've been able to help people get over that?
That's a little bit of a double-edged sword question because I believe anybody can organize. I believe anybody can figure it out. Now, just like I love tinkering around and making some jewelry, I don't want to do that all day long or for a profession or to have people tell me what they like and I have to make it for them. It's a hobby. I think what new organizers need to decide is, do I enjoy this for me or do I want to share this skill with the world?
Yes.
And for me, I'm not perfect. I will never file fold. I will roll all day long. I will not file fold. You will have to you will have to tie me up and do horrible things to me to get me to file fold.
I have never
Uh,
heard
well,
anyone express this vehement of an opinion on file folding
and I know
before.
who I'm
Beautiful.
talking to.
You know,
So
you're fine. I'm fine if you don't like file folding. I am
um
entertained.
so I am the first person to admit that I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to my organizing. Organizing to me is more about function and not having a disaster at the end of every single day where you're spending your free time in the evening clearing your space so that you can enjoy 5 minutes before you go to bed. Let's enjoy 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I do think that you don't have to have skills. You can figure it out. There, YouTube University can show you how to
Yeah.
fold. It can show you how to make a bed. It can show you how to do anything. A podcast can teach you. I think it's in your heart and it's in your bones that you want to help people. I think that's the bottom line. It's not, it's helping people for me.
Well, and you're touching on something that I think is really important and we talk about a lot, but and because we're organizers, we do like to have things, looking good and feeling good. And so perfectionism can creep in a lot in organizers' brains. And I think you're touching on it doesn't have to be perfect. And that includes you're organizing inside someone else's house and it includes starting your business. It includes all those things, but letting
Yeah.
go of that a little bit And again, it's not about just throwing anything out there and being sloppy, but you can figure it out. You don't have to have it all lined up beforehand.
No, and I do think too, as a new organizer, I had to get over a little bit of a hurdle thinking that the only people that would need me are people that just wanted things to look pretty. I had to understand there was so much more depth to this than things looking pretty. And I think that's important for organizers, new organizers, especially to get across to their potential clients,
Mhm.
is that it's not just about that. You don't have to have a brand new house that has this perfect walk-in pantry that I'm going to take pictures of and post all over Pinterest.
Yeah.
It goes so far beyond that. And that's my biggest advice to new organizers is to understand that. Don't get lost in the Pinterest, Instagram world. I did.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of sleep and I dipped down into a little bit of, ooh, I don't know if I have what it takes. Absolutely, you do. And those are fun to look at, all those neat pictures, but it's really not total reality. I do believe there is a niche of those people that is their target.
Sure.
And that's fine, but there is a lot more to it than that.
Well, if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about that comparisonitis that you had to get off? Because I do think that's something that new organizers and not new, rescind. All organizers get into
All
this.
organizers.
Looking at other people's
Yeah,
stuff and being like, well, look
yeah,
what they're doing and look what they're doing. And all like, can you talk a little bit about how you got
yeah.
out of that loop?
Oh, totally. So overcoming the comparison trap. Yes, right away when I started doing all my research, I followed 100 million organizers and just was obsessed with it. And I still dip a little bit. But what I started to do instead is I started reaching out to these organizers that I was following. I private messaged them. I gave them compliments
Mhm.
and told them where I was at and what I appreciated that they were teaching me.
Yeah.
And these women came back as humans. These are the same people as you and I. And it let me realize that they're doing the same thing I'm doing. These are just pictures they're putting up there. This is not this big perfect world they're living in, that this is every single job. They're doing exactly what they should be doing on Instagram. But my biggest advice is reach out to a few.
Yeah.
Whenever I heard one on a podcast, I would, even if the podcast was 2 years old, I would immediately go on and reach out to them and say, hey, I listened to a podcast number such and such from such and such date. And this is how you impacted me. And I just wanted you to know that, thank you. And I appreciate that. And so now when I am on Instagram and I am scrolling through, I'm like, oh, I remember chatting with her and I remember chatting with her. And I'll reach out and go, oh, that was great. And they'll come back with something sarcastic and funny or, yeah, it wasn't all that great, kind of just the realness to it. That's how I turned it around for me. I also had to stop going on other people's websites. That one too. If you're thinking about designing a website, which today I did launch, so that was really exciting, I had to shut those down. It is so hard to get in your own space.
Yeah.
You end up obsessing over other people's spaces. And it's really important to be your own individual, authentic person. You need to be authentic. And I had to reteach myself that it's not about everybody else's websites and Instagrams. It's okay to enjoy them, but you have got to stop comparing.
And that you did a lot of work. I know that. I know you did a lot of work to get over that. And so I just think people can learn from you and say, like, you can get down a rabbit hole and drive yourself bananas of like, I can't measure up to that. I can't measure up to that. Yes, you can. You can be your own
Mhm.
yardstick. You can be
Absolutely.
your own measuring tape. And that's the most important thing is you have arrived at an absolutely stunningly gorgeous website and a brand name that really means something to you and all these things. You have arrived at that on your own, which I think is
Yes.
really, really important.
I do believe the other advice I can give to new organizers, even though I'm still new myself, reading Atomic Habits.
Yeah. Oh, that book is so good.
So the book is amazing. I'm almost done. I have just a few pages left, but there is one section in that as a new solopreneur and new in my business is making sure you don't get stuck in motion. You've got to move to action.
Yep.
And scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Pinterest, obsessing over other people's websites is motion. You've got to switch to action. And that hit me like a brick upside the head when I read that. And that's where I'm at right now. I am in action mode. So really want other organizers that are new to the business, don't get stuck in motion.
Yeah. And
Scrolling through Instagram is not production.
the phrase I like that I use a lot is analysis paralysis, which is that same thing is
Yes.
you get into this like, well, there's this and this and this and this and this. There are 200 things you could consider for one thing, right? Like, what do I want my website to look like? And you can get into that loop of nothing is actually moving forward and happening. So it's actually a way to procrastinate for some people. And so getting into that action and imperfect action is better than inaction. So
Absolutely.
something
Absolutely.
is better than nothing.
I do have one other thing that's
Yeah,
really important uh,
absolutely.
for some of the older hens out there. And I can say that because I'm most likely halfway through my life. I thought for sure about 3 months ago that I was done. Whatever would happen, this is who I am. I'm going to be, and most people don't know, but I pour wine at a vineyard. But I'm going to be getting people drunk for the rest of my life. That's just what I'm going to do. But at 48, there's so much time. There's so much time. And there are some that are going to struggle with the technology piece.
Mhm.
There's people that'll do it for you.
Yep. And there are
And
people
just
that will help you. Yeah.
yeah, don't let that stop you. The ladies out there that maybe were the stay-at-home moms that are now like, what am I going to do with my life? And this is something that's intriguing to them. There's plenty of time.
There is plenty
Plenty.
of time. I was 42, so I was not that far behind you when I figured out my life's purpose. And so but I think that's a good point as moms, and it may be moms in their 30s, right? Like their kids maybe are off to kindergarten and then they're trying to figure out what to do. There are people, you don't even have to have kids. It could be any phase of your life that you say like, "Hey, this is really something that I'm drawn to." And you're exactly right, is you can absolutely reinvent yourself no matter what stage you're in.
Yes. And I am so pleased when I see the young 20-year-olds hopping into this. Oh, they're so lucky. I
Yes,
love it.
they are. They found it a lot earlier than you and I did.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I do want to go back to something that you were talking about when we were talking about Instagram, and it's I think it is very important as someone who has been organizing for a decent amount of time now. There are definitely people who will reach out to you, but they will say, "I want to be a professional organizer. Tell me how you became a professional organizer." And so what I want to just say when you're talking about reaching out to people, I love, 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 love what you said your
Oh,
strategy
yes.
was
I
because
don't ask them how to.
right.
Yeah.
And so this is something that if you are listening and you are thinking about this as a career, take a page out of Kim's book and say the way to do it and the way to connect with people is to authentically connect with them as a human in the same way they connected back with you. It's I listened to you on a podcast. Oh my gosh, I love this thing that you shared. I'm trying to start a professional organizing journey. You are super inspirational to me. You're not asking for anything. You're just delivering a compliment and you're starting that relationship. It's
And
really important.
yes, and that's truly what I'm doing. I'm not doing it backhandedly to eventually ask them things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is really important. I think about mine is all about complimenting them and letting them know how they impacted my life. It's not about picking their brain. No.
And it's a relationship that you develop with people, and then
It's
you do earn the right to ask those questions. And but I just know I get a lot of like, oh, I also want to do this. So how do you do it? And the one that I remember most distinctly was someone who sent me an email and she said, I have 10 questions, and she put them in a document. She goes, I would appreciate a very quick response to this. And I'm like,
yeah,
no. So, and I don't mean to sound mean. I love helping people more than I love like pretty much
sure.
anything. That's why I work at Pro Organizer Studio. But it was just like there's a way to do it. And the way that you reached out to people, I think is a really beautiful example that everyone should take.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Authentic. Keep
Yes.
yourself on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that authenticity goes to everything that you're talking about. So it's not just reaching out to people on social media, but it is being who you are, presenting yourself as, whatever, if it's your brand. I know that because you live in Oregon, your business is Rustic Home Organizing. And so to you, you wanted to make it more of that like authentic, down home
Mhm.
type of feel, all that kind of stuff. That authenticity really goes through your whole life as an
Yes.
organizer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What are you most looking forward to in your new career?
So I wrote down my 2022 goals.
Okay, I'm ready.
I don't even like calling them goals, really. I'm trying to figure out my perfect word for them. So first of all, I want to share my 2022 words.
Okay.
So I have two of them. One of them is outsourcing
Okay.
and one of them is fierce.
Oh, I love
Those are
that.
yes, and I plan to fiercely outsource.
Love it. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
I this year I want to collaborate with a business. I'm going to have a couple in mind. I want to collaborate with somebody, and that is the main reason for collaboration. Is I do want to get a higher Instagram following, not because that's going to help my business. It's more of a personal thing that I want. It's just something I've never had, and so I want to make it happen. I want to, I want to make very crass T-shirts.
Love it. I love it.
I want to have my cute little chic logo on the front and something very sarcastic and crass on the back. And I want to do like different sayings. So if anybody out there has a really fun saying, I'll even have your name below it so you can own it.
Love it.
Yeah. So like I said, none of this is going to bring me clients, but I'm having fun with it. I have a financial goal in mind. So of course I have that. There's just so many, there's so many that I want to do. I want to get the shop organized and I have a company in mind. So out where I live, farmland products made in the USA are extremely important to some people.
Sure.
And there is a company I have found that is a little bit more rustic. And I have reached out to them once. I will probably have to reach out 15 to 20 more times before I get their attention.
Yeah.
But on to try and collaborate with them to get our personal shop all up ship shape and make it look really pretty so that I can start bringing in that niche that I think my heart really wants.
Well, you said it earlier, but let's just be really clear. Like when you say shop, this is something that some perhaps people on the coast do not understand. Like you and I might understand, like where we
Yeah.
live, but we're talking like you called it a mansion garage, but it is
Yeah.
like
It's
legit.
bigger.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
thousands of square feet.
Yeah. We're talking systems. We're talking big equipment, tools. So yes, this is like a probably a month long kind of organizing project that's going to require major systems, shelving, all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be beautiful when we're done.
But this is a great example of something that you can think about. You're like, oh my gosh, I never would have considered that before. Like we often think about organizing as it's in a house. Typically, you're working with a woman, you're working with the mom or the wife, and really thinking about, oh no, there are places that need organization that might not
Mhm.
come to your mind
Yeah.
immediately. And by the way, that
Yeah.
can include businesses. Restaurants is something that I know a few organizers have started to niche into, like restaurant supplies and that type of thing. The huge shops that you're talking about. So if you live in tech, we have tons of organizers in Texas. You know,
Yeah.
there are parts of the country that you need to think about. Hey, what are some unique things about my part of the country?
Exactly. I think that's a really good point. The other thing I want to venture into is motorhome trailers, getting those organized because there's a lot of that that goes around here too. A lot of camping, day trips, that sort of thing. And I am going to play around with that a little bit.
Well, and when you think about like the move, especially post COVID, of people being kind of
Mhm.
everywhere, like
Yes.
the van life stuff and RVs, that type of thing, like these are all niches that are very legitimate and have clients out there.
Yes. There's so many avenues, so many.
It's exciting. I want to talk to you a little bit about your two words. So, fiercely outsourcing or outsourcing and fierce. You are very much a believer in making investments where they make sense. So, for instance, you knew about yourself that you were not going to be a DIY website person. It just was not in your wheelhouse. So,
No.
you talk a little
Try.
bit about some of the investments that you've chosen to make
Okay.
for your business.
Absolutely. First of all, you don't have to invest in anything to organize, which
Correct.
is beautiful and amazing.
Literally
For
$0.
$0. But for me, that wasn't going to work. And that's simply because of how my brain works and how I gain my confidence. And so for me, I needed that website. I needed that storefront almost, that identity. That was very important to me. And I did try. I went on Wix for 5 minutes and just about chucked my computer across the room and cried. And so that brought me down another, okay, what do I do then? And so, I start reaching out to people. What, how do I do this? Or who does that? Or what, how can I do that? And I just, you've got to throw your feelers out there. Whatever is not connecting with you or causing you to get caught up and tied up. I've heard of women working on their websites for months.
Years in
Amount
some
of
cases.
money
Yeah.
you could have made organizing would have paid for that website
Yes.
like 3 months prior. So I chose
Let's
not
let's just stop and say that again. The
to.
amount, because it's really important, because
It's so important.
I have worked with people who have done this, like, well, I don't want to pay someone to build my website, which I understand, but if it takes you 9 months to make it, you have lost thousands of dollars.
But for me, it's not even that. Yes, but my website would have looked kindergarten did it. Kindergarten did it. So
Yeah.
what would that have done to people that went to my website? If things weren't connecting properly and it wasn't flowing easy. As an organizer, it has to be Sesame Street simple, or they're not going to think you're organized. It's
Yeah.
got to flow. And I just knew I can't make it flow. So somebody else is going to have to do it for me. Trust me that, yeah, it's not inexpensive, but the ROI on that, like I said, if you have the money to be able to do that, I wouldn't think twice about it. It's definitely worth it. 100%. So I outsourced my website. I also outsourced wording my website. I don't know how to write. I've never been a good writer. I can talk, but I can't write. So I outsourced an editor that can make anything sound beautiful. And she did an amazing job. I outsourced the SEO integration. So on the back end, everything that Google needs to be able to put me on that first page, I outsourced that. I'm outsourcing. I decided for me, I wanted to immediately have a CRM set up. I don't need it at the moment, but I wanted it set up. I just need it all in place. I need all my ducks in a row. For me, that's how my brain works. And so I hopped on Dubsado and I couldn't figure it out. And so I looked into it and found somebody that's setting up all of that for me and integrating it with my website, and everything's going to flow. So I don't have to lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I woke up, I had a message from the gal that's doing the SEO on my website. And 2 hours later, I got an email that said, it's all done. I mean, I would have spent months trying to figure that out.
Right. What you're saying is super important, because you have to know yourself. And so there are people who are like, hey, you know what? I find it a challenge to build a website. I'm going to learn how to do this. Great.
Mhm. Oh, sure.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
but if you are not that person, know that there are people to do anything. You can
Yes.
hire people to think for you if you really need to.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it may not be the level of investment that you think it is either. So I think sometimes people just assume that something is going to be out of their budget range. They assume that they are not going to be able to afford something, and so then they don't look into it. And
Yes.
that is definitely something that, at least know what you're working with. Know how much it costs, and then you can decide, this is something I can do, or this is something I may need to think about.
And, I another one I didn't mention, coaching.
Mhm.
Business coaching for some might be what just turns their whole thought process around. And for me, it did. It helped me feel like I wasn't just solo. I actually was on a team. And that to me, honestly, website is very important. I do believe that. I don't think you have to have it right away. I would almost say the very first investment would be a business coach.
Yeah.
100%. I think a business coach is a great person to bounce your ideas off and throw some truth out to you. Hey, what you
Yeah.
just did, I probably wouldn't do it again.
Well, and the other thing too is, if this is going to be a random reference, but on the Sopranos, the psychiatrist on the Soprano has a therapist. Like, therapists have therapists,
Yep.
right? Doctors have doctors. Business coaches, even the biggest business coaches that you can name, the ones that we all know, that we listen to their podcasts and everything. Those business coaches have business coaches, and those business coaches have business coaches. We all need someone outside of ourselves to say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, have you thought about that? It is
Hmm.
a really important investment. At least it has been for me and for my business.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I know that there are also the gal that did my website. She also will go in and tweak things for you. So you don't have to have that initial full do the whole thing, but you could do an hourly. Will you go in and just make sure everything's flowing right?
Yep.
There's something for everything.
And that's a great point is you can do a hybrid on some things too, where you
Yeah.
say, I'm going to build it and then I'm going to have someone come in and fix a few of the things. It's a great
Yes.
point. So,
Yeah. Yes.
so are your girls excited that you've taken this new path?
Yes. They are excited.
I mean, your girls are like on your team,
Oh yeah.
literally and
Well,
figuratively.
yeah, they are. Well, my oldest daughter, Nicole, she is 28. She is pregnant with my first grandbaby. I'm
Oh,
super.
that's so exciting. I didn't know that.
She has a degree from University of Georgia in finance. She is going to help me with all of my payment processes and getting all my books ready. And then I have my middle daughter, Courtney. She graduated from Syracuse University with a degree in business and entrepreneurship, of all things. She works for a social media firm and works for some really big companies on the back end of social media, which was super exciting for me. That was going to be a slam
Huge.
dunk,
Yes.
except it's not. She is not helping me. I want you all to know that. So when you see my Instagram, it is not her.
When you see her Instagram, it is her that's doing it. So you need to tell her she's doing a great job.
I know. I always get that, Mom, I'm on a call. I can't help you. She lives in Boston, so she's not close by. And then I have my youngest daughter, Caitlin. She's 18. She goes to University of Oregon. She is majoring in special education. She is a amazing writer. So if you do see something really pretty outside of my website that's been written, it is not me. It is my daughter, Caitlin. So yes, they are all trying to help me. My girls are excited for me and they see passion in my eyes. They see sparkle. And the more I do things, the more they're like, oh, wow, you're actually good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that so years ago, someone asked me, I used to travel a lot and, do you ever feel guilty? And I said, yes, of course, every mom feels guilty, but I also like to believe that I'm teaching my girls that strong women, are able to start their own, able to be business women. They're able to do these things. And I think that there's a value in that too, that they see their mom doing something hard, but that you're committed to and passionate about. It's a big deal.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They've seen me in action a couple times. And I think they had to take back some of their words.
Yeah.
They were like, you actually know what you're doing, don't you? I do.
Yes, I really do.
Everything in your life and you just don't realize it.
Right. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you wanna tell our listeners?
I just think that finding purpose in your life is so important and you might not find it today. It might be 10 years down the road to be patient with yourselves. And I think that life experiences bring us to our purpose. So there's a chance you haven't gotten all the way down the path, not to knock yourself out with it and don't beat yourself up about not being in a certain place where you think you should be. I think it just happens when it happens.
You're absolutely right, 'cause I know I said I wish I would have found organizing sooner, but I think you and I found it when we needed it the most. Like,
Yeah,
we found this as a career when we needed it the most, at the time in our
for
life we
sure.
needed it the most, and maybe people are at a different people
Yeah,
are finding
yeah,
it when they need to, so
exactly. Yes.
well, thank you for joining us, Kim. Where can people find you on the internet?
They can now find me, rhorganizing.com. You can also type in rustichomeorganizing.com. It gets you to the same site. I have a Facebook page, Rustic Home Organizing. And I also have Instagram, Rustic Home Organizing with underscore in between each word.
And we will link all of those in the show notes so people can connect with you and tell you. So now people can DM you and tell you how they are inspired by you. So
I hope so. I hope I hit somebody, just one person. That's all I
that's
need.
right. That's all you need. So, well, thank you for joining us, Kim.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good luck. I am so excited to be on this journey with you.
Thank you.
So that was Kim as a brand new organizer. And you can go right this very second to go listen to what Kim learned in her first year, about 366 days after this was recorded. And then later this week, if you are listening live, a couple days from then, you can hear the brand new episode. Thanks for visiting us on this rewind. And as always, if you need anything, if you want more information about Pro Organizer Studio, our coaching, our programs, anything at all, please email me hello@proorganizerstudio.com. Have an awesome day, organizers.